solidifying the pro-corporate, anti-worker wing of the Supreme Court. I think what we're looking for is the nomination of a right-wing extremist.
Molly Hemingway is a senior editor at The Federalist, and she joins us now. So Bernie's telling us this is the nomination of a right-wing extremist. Does he know who's getting the nomination? I hadn't heard.
Yeah, we have no idea who's getting the nomination, although we do have a list of potential nominees from President Trump. But what I think this speaks to is that people really have a lot of interest in the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court itself has so much power, and it has done so much in recent decades to really push issues even over and against the way that the people have voted, and particularly when it comes to liberal social activism. You have seen just a tremendous push by the court to overturn what people have voted on, and it means that the Supreme Court has in many ways too much power when the resignation of one person can cause so much anxiety by people on both left and right.
Well, that's exactly right. It's not a healthy democracy when the least democratic institution has the most power. But how can you denounce someone as a right-wing extremist before you know who that person is? I mean, is that a little weird? Was it always this way? Well, the rhetoric seems to be getting more intense.
It's weird. Just think of with the nomination of Anthony Kennedy back in the 1980s, which happened itself after President Reagan had nominated Bork, and that vote was declined by a Democratic Senate, and then his replacement Ginsburg ended up withdrawing. Kennedy was nominated by Reagan and turned out to be a jurist who advanced quite a bit of liberal social activism, whether that was redefining marriage to include same-sex couples, or Roe v. Wade was a very poorly written decision, and Kennedy did a lot to save that with the Casey decision. So you don't even know what you're getting when a Republican, even someone like Ronald Reagan, nominates you. So people should just wait until they find out who is nominated and evaluate the person and their judicial philosophy at that time.
Exactly. Only Republican nominees get more liberal. Democratic nominees never get more conservative, ever.
Interesting.
Molly Hemingway, thank you.
Thanks.
It's amazing. Reactions to Kennedy's retirement on Twitter, of course, are even stronger than those on television because everybody brings out his worst self on Twitter. Think Progress editor Ian Millhiser tweeted this, among other things, "F you, Justice Kennedy." Comedy Central writer Curtis Cook said this, quote, "I wish this Kennedy had been shot instead of the other ones." Just another happy day on progressive Twitter. Law professor and Democratic candidate Richard Painter, who's now running for Senate, wrote this, quote, "No new Supreme Court nominations by Trump to replace Justice Kennedy. None. He is in blatant violation of the Constitution and must be impeached. Senate and House Judiciary Committee hearings are way past due. I have had it with appeasement of aspiring dictators." He was clearly sweating and shouting as he wrote that. Richard Goodstein is a much calmer man, also an attorney. He advised Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns. He joins us tonight. So, Richard, I thought that the critique of Trump from the left was that he was violating democratic norms. But the democratic norm is the elected president gets to nominate to fill vacancies on the Supreme Court, which Trump is doing because, again, he's president. But now we're hearing that he shouldn't be allowed to do that. So how can you be for democratic norms but oppose that?
Well, that wasn't the precedent that was followed with Merrick Garland, was it? So, look,
no, it wasn't. You're right.
I'm not saying that whether it's the Biden rule or McConnell rule, I think that's frankly silly talk. What alarms people, you're talking about a meltdown. What alarms people is Donald Trump said that women should be punished for having abortion, that their doctor should be treated criminally. You had 20 Republican state legislators in Ohio today advance a position that women should get the death penalty who have abortions. So if any of your viewers have somebody in their family or a friend that they know of who's had an abortion, that person should be scared to death. If they have a friend who's gay,
nobody
that behavior was criminalized.
Let me ask you, since you would always, no, that's just silly. Let me ask you a question.
I defended,
since it's always about abortion, okay, right, hold on, but how many, is it a sincere question?
Yeah.
How many abortions, more abortions do we need till we get really happy? Like, what's the ideal number of abortions, would you say, in America?
They should be safe, legal, and
nirvana?
rare.
How many?
But they shouldn't
how many should we have? Because the idea is that whenever you restrict abortion, it's bad. How many would make this country like a great country again?
So I'll tell you what.
Would you say?
That's a very dismissive view of the views of women who think they should have control over their bodies. Of course, we should have as few abortions as possible.
Any pro-life women?
But the women who choose to go that route should not be put in jail. And if Donald Trump and these legislators in Ohio and elsewhere around the country have their way, that's what's going to happen.
No one believes this, Gar. It's too dumb. It's too dumb. Look,
you
don't
even.
Here's
Donald Trump
you don't
said to
even
Chris
know.
Matthews.
Wait, stop. Hold on, Chris. So Donald Trump's a big pro-life activist now. Okay, let's just stop BSing the audience here. Right. Let's ask a sincere question. Isn't it kind of an insult to the intelligence of everybody that Democrats are attacking a nominee when there isn't a nominee? Shouldn't you hear the person's positions before you dismiss him? Or is it just anybody nominated is bad? Yeah, that's like a dumb person position, isn't it?
Donald Trump did something running for president that most presidential candidates didn't do. He said, I'm going to have a litmus test, which is I want to reverse Roe versus Wade. He also, again, said that these women should be treated criminally. So we're just taking him at his word, and we're looking at this list of people he's put out.
He's not nominating himself to the Supreme Court. Okay. And it's always about abortion. I guess that's where the money comes from, or like...
You know what?
Idea is,
climate change is not about abortion.
That's happiness or something.
There's a lot of issues on which Justice Kennedy was
thank you.
My pleasure.
The president now has an opportunity to change the makeup of the highest court to a degree for a generation or more, a promise he made on the campaign trail.
So how is this resonating amongst the Trump supporters? Joining us now with their reaction, social media stars and Trump supporters, Diamond and Silk. Hey, ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. What do you think about all this? You know, we watched Nancy Pelosi yesterday saying, okay, calm down when that lady won, the socialist one here in New York. Calm down, it's okay. I want to say that to the media, too. Just take a chill pill, right?
Yeah, calm down, but shame on the left for always going into a frenzy. Yeah. Look, and they only doing this because they want to dismantle the Constitution. But what I say to the left is, listen, we don't need to dismantle the Constitution. We don't need to rewrite it. They need to reread it. That's right. We don't need to oppose the Constitution. We need to uphold the Constitution. And I'm so happy that the president get to pick the next judge that's going to be in place, that's going to uphold our Constitution and uphold our conservative values.
You have one ex-Democratic congresswoman called on Democrats to get into a street fight, and then you had Michael Moore, who tends to be liberal according to reports, says it's time to get off the couch and use your bodies. What is he talking about?
I have no idea what he's talking about, but what I do know from the left is what they do is manipulate, intimidate in order to dominate. But those policies aren't working anymore because people are walking away from that liberal ideology, from all of that foolishness that's going on in the streets, and they want something better for their lives. So that kind of stuff is not working anymore.
And the Democrats keep talking about the blue wave. It's nothing but Democrats waving away at them when they walking off that Democrat plantation.
Well, ladies, you know that one of the reasons the Democrats, a lot of Democrats are concerned is the fact that there's the feeling that if the president is able to get more conservative voices on the high court, that they will undo Roe v. Wade. And the Democrats are, you know, they're against that, while a number of Republicans, you know, that's a dream come true.
But really, you don't know that to be true. So why are you fear-mongering? Why are you spreading that? Why are you going into a frenzy? Just wait and see what's going to happen. But in the meantime, I want the Constitution upheld. And I want a judge put in place that's going to stand by our Constitution.
And it's time to bring values and morals back into America.
Well, the president is now hosting a celebration marking the 6-month anniversary of tax cuts. A lot to celebrate there, right? Or do you think they're just crumbs?
Oh, no, it's a lot to celebrate, baby. Listen, people have more money in their pocket. Americans are excited. They're able to pick and choose whatever job they want to work at. This is an exciting time to be alive in America. And this president is surely making it happen. He is surely making America great again. So he has every right to celebrate. He has done an amazing job, and we love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Morgan Stanley did a survey, and they asked companies about the tax cut and what you're doing with it. The company survey anticipate using only a quarter to shareholders and dividends. The rest is going to go to pay raises as well as expansion, hiring more people. For those who say that they're just making corporations richer, that's not what Morgan Stanley says, and they're the ones who value companies.
Wow. I absolutely love it. And that's how it's supposed to be. Put America first. This is what this president doing. And guess what? Americans are coming up.
I'm just stopping by to remind you that liberals are insane. Social justice warriors are becoming more violent and triggered than ever before. Anyways, be sure to subscribe to KGP TV on YouTube and have a blessed day. Yeah, man.
Kennedy, none. He is in blatant violation of the Constitution and must be impeached. Senate and House Judiciary Committee hearings are way past due. I have had it with appeasement of aspiring dictators. He was clearly sweating and shouting as he wrote that. Richard Goodstein is a much calmer man, also an attorney. He advised Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns. He joins us tonight. So, Richard, I thought that the critique of Trump from the left was that he was violating democratic norms. But the democratic norm is the elected president gets to nominate to fill vacancies on the Supreme Court, which Trump is doing because, again, he's president. But now we're hearing that he shouldn't be allowed to do that. So how can you be for democratic norms but oppose that?
Well, that wasn't the precedent that was followed with Merrick Garland, was it? So, look,
no, it wasn't. You're right.
I'm not saying that whether it's the Biden rule or McConnell rule, I think that's frankly silly talk. What alarms people, you know, you're talking about a meltdown. What alarms people is Donald Trump said that women should be punished for having an abortion, that their doctor should be treated criminally. You had 20 Republican state legislators in Ohio today advance a position that women should get the death penalty who have abortions. So if any of your viewers have somebody in their family or a friend that they know of who's had an abortion, that person should be scared to death. If they have a friend who's gay,
nobody
that
thinks
behavior was criminalized.
Let me ask you,
since
you've been always, no, that's just silly. Let me ask you a question.
I defended
since it's always about abortion. How many? Wait, hold on. How many? Okay, right. Hold on. But how many? Is it a sincere question?
Yeah.
How many abortions? More abortions do we need till we get really happy? Like, what's the ideal number of abortions, would you say, in America?
They should be safe, legal, and
nirvana?
Rare.
How many? How many should we have? Because the idea is that whenever you restrict abortion, it's bad. How many would make this?
It was a very poorly written decision, and Kennedy did a lot to save that with the Casey decision. So you don't even know what you're getting when a Republican, even someone like Ronald Reagan, nominates you. So people should just wait until they find out who is nominated and evaluate the person and their judicial philosophy at that time.
Exactly. Only Republican nominees get more liberal. Democratic nominees never get more conservative, ever.
Interesting.
Molly Hemingway, thank you.
Thanks.
It's amazing. Reactions to Kennedy's retirement on Twitter, of course, are even stronger than those on television because everybody brings out his worst self on Twitter. Think Progress editor Ian Millhiser tweeted this, among other things, F you, Justice Kennedy. Comedy Central writer Curtis Cook said this, quote, I wish this Kennedy had been shot instead of the other ones. Just another happy day on progressive Twitter. Law professor and Democratic candidate Richard Painter, who's now running for Senate, wrote this, quote, no new Supreme Court nominations by Trump to replace Justice Kennedy.
Solidifying the pro-corporate, anti-worker wing of the Supreme Court. I think what we're looking for is the nomination of a right-wing extremist.
Molly Hemingway is a senior editor at The Federalist, and she joins us now. So Bernie's telling us this is the nomination of a right-wing extremist. Does he know who's getting the nomination? I hadn't heard it.
Yeah, we have no idea who's getting the nomination, although we do have a list of potential nominees from President Trump. But what I think this speaks to is that people really have a lot of interest in the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court itself has so much power, and it has done so much in recent decades to really push issues even over and against the way that the people have voted, and particularly when it comes to liberal social activism. You have seen just a tremendous push by the court to overturn what people have voted on, and it means that the Supreme Court has, in many ways, too much power when the resignation of one person can cause so much anxiety by people on both left and right.
Well, that's exactly right. It's not a healthy democracy when the least democratic institution has the most power. But how can you denounce someone as a right-wing extremist before you know who that person is? I mean, Is that a little weird? Was it always this way?
Well,
the rhetoric seems to be getting more intense.
It's weird. Just think of with the nomination of Anthony Kennedy back in the 1980s, which happened itself after President Reagan had nominated Bork, and that vote was declined by a Democratic Senate, and then his replacement Ginsburg ended up withdrawing. Kennedy was nominated by Reagan and turned out to be a jurist who advanced quite a bit of liberal social activism, whether that was redefining marriage to include same-sex couples, or Roe v. Wade.